Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. As you can see, I have with me Mr. Kanwal Sibal. Sir, good evening and welcome to the show.
My pleasure.
Sir, I wanted to ask you, where do you think India and US stand today? Because we have back with us the whole Soros gang, which is now coming up to us with Washington Post and this and that. Uh, Trump is, out of options, or what? The old gang is saying, let us handle it. What do you think is happening here?
I think our relations are in pretty bad shape
Mhm.
because Trump has now hit us at various i- points. He has, for example, on H-1B visas hit us, but much more importantly on the tariffs issue. Those 50% tariffs are still there uh, with 25% tariff penalty because we are buying Russian oil. He has also uh, hit us on Pakistan. He is now lionizing the Pakistani army chief openly, knowing that this would be a cause of concern to India. Now, Secretary of State Rubio has today uh, said that they see opportunity for building a strategic partnership with Pakistan, or strengthening the strategic partnership with Pakistan, something to that effect. Um, he has been talking about mediating in Jammu and Kashmir. That he's not saying for the moment, but he's probably reiterated for the 51st time that he had a role to play in the ceasefire. He said this again on the plane when he was going to Kuala Lumpur. He now wants to mediate between Pakistan and Afghanistan, uh, which means that he but before I go there, they have also supplied AMRAAM missiles to Pakistan. Now, if he really goes forward with this mediation effort between Pakistan and Afghanistan, because the whole idea is to protect Pakistan, strengthen Pakistan, bolster Pakistan's regional role, and that will have direct repercussions on the regional situation here in the subcontinent. Pakistan will get emboldened, and tomorrow he could well start rearming Pakistan. It's possible. I think they had a hand in this defense agreement between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Uh, but coming back to this oil business, now my view is that he's really had us because he imposed these 25% extra tariffs because we were buying Russian oil and summoned us to stop buying Russian oil. And then he used that to extract the maximum concessions on the trade front. Clearly, because there have been fresh rounds of talks. And in these talks, we must have made some concessions within limits, but we must have made some concessions. He always had up his sleeve that he's going to ban Russian oil. So after using that pressure of 25% penalty tariffs for India buying Russian oil and business, extracting trade concessions from us, he's gone ahead and in, banned Russian oil, which means we can't buy it anymore. Uh, so in a way, they have strategized the whole thing in a manner uh, to extract the maximum from India. So, and then of course you look at his general policy with regard to how he's looking at the world in general. We do not know what will come out of his meeting with Xi Jinping because he's going to meet him in South Korea. So he's reaching out to China. He's holding his hand vis-a-vis China, because China has reacted. Now, this has some. We have then to see whether this outreach to China or this engagement of China or this willing to compromise with China would mean in terms of his commitment to the Quad. and the Indo-Pacific concept. He's not talking about it anymore. Uh,
Norway.
and and others also now are not talking about it as they used to. Secretary Rubio used to talk about it, but they're talking about it uh, less and less. So uh, he could have some other things up his sleeve in terms of putting pressure uh, on India. So let's see how it goes. But the long and short is that it would appear that Trump does not attach any significant importance to relations with India anymore. Though, of course, one can argue that he doesn't seem to attach significance to any relationship,
Anyone? Mhm.
even with his allies and this and that. So it's not as if one should be paranoid about it because he's treating everybody the same way. Now look at what he's done with Canada. Long-standing ally, very faithful, and simply because they put out some visuals of Ronald Reagan talking about how the tariffs were a bad policy, he's imposed additional 10% tariffs on Canada. And he said, we're not going to have any trade discussions with Canada. So Canada could actually have much more reason to be upset with Trump than we have.
Mm.
Uh, So it all depends on what perspective we have. Uh, but there's no consolation to us that he's treating everybody badly. We have to see how he's dealing
Yeah.
with India. And finally, I would attach less and less importance uh, to all the occasional friendly noises he makes
Mm.
towards the prime minister and towards India. This is part of his deceptive character. He's not an honest man. Well, when I say he's not an honest man, this assumes that he is all there and that whatever he's doing is part of a well considered, thoughtful, uh, well discussed, well analyzed approach to relations with other countries. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's part of his character. I think he's dealing with countries, including with India, as if we are real estate deals, that everything and anything goes. Bargaining is the only thing that matters. And laws and rules and regulations are not important. You can buy off people, you can sell off people, you can do underhand deals, you can overhand deals. At the end of the day, you've got to get a deal. So he's looking at foreign policy as simply deal making. And in that very limited perspective, all the other aspects of building up longer term relationship based on trust, based on predictability, based on investment in each other, in each other's welfare and growth, all that doesn't seem to be weighing in his approach to foreign relations.
So when we see this, I mean, the Russian oil thing and this and that, I see a nasty oil game here because if you remember when he's started saying, oh, China's also buying, and this and that, and we realized China was dumping about 1 million barrels of oil a day into the market, which was making, of course, our arbitration, China's dumping, all that was making the oil prices kind of fall, and they came down to about 59. And then he came out, oh, I'm sanctioning this, sanctioning that. He started doing all that stuff, and then we realized the oil prices have shoved back up, and they've gone up to about 66, 68 now. There was a 5% jump right there, as he said these things. So, do you think he's playing these games for oil, for price manipulations, market manipulations? Because what we are seeing is he does this on a Friday, right? The Adani LIC nonsense comes out on a Friday evening. They wait for it to stew over the weekend, and then on Monday there's some sort of this thing, some sort of a shake, and people come to him to negotiate after that. Do you think these are market games that he's trying to play? Because I personally feel if the oil falls below 60, he's in trouble. His seat is in trouble. The Americans will kill him. Uh, his oil company guys will kill him. What's the game here, sir? Because
Couple of
disparaging with
yeah,
everyone is Just doesn't
See,
make sense.
couple of things. If you remember, in one of his cabinet meetings, he turned around to these big businessmen, whoever they were. He said, "I made a lot of money for you," uh, and this is precisely what you're saying, manipulating the market with his policy announcements and this and that, and benefiting certain category of people, his friends or whatever else. He said that, I benefited a lot of you people. And then we also see that he also is using his presidential position to do business for himself and his family. Um, and lots of reports are there to that effect. It's no longer a hidden secret. So it's not past him to do the kind of things that you're saying. Now, insofar as the oil prices uh, are concerned, I mean, I'm not an expert, but the general belief is that the that shale oil will not be profitable unless the price of oil is around $60-65 a barrel. And in any case, uh, if it is going to be drill baby drill, which means more production, then those who are going to do this and invest have to see what the market portends for the future. So you have to make sure that the oil prices remain at a certain level for them to make these investments and produce more oil. Therefore, you are right that logically he would want to make sure that the price of oil doesn't fall below a certain level, so that his ambition to not only be the largest producer of oil, which he is, but also the largest exporter of oil. Uh, because the interesting thing is, which I which I didn't know, which President Putin in his press conference said that the United States is the biggest producer of oil, produces 13 million tons, but it imports 20 million tons, mostly from Canada. Now, if he wants to reduce that reliance on imports, then he wants to increase production. And if he wants to increase production, he has to give an incentive to his companies to do so, to invest, which means that the price should go up to levels where it is profitable for them to invest. Uh, from our point of view, I think even if it's 60, 65, even, and this puts more pressure on us, we can still live with it because we have lived with much higher oil prices. But the jury is still not out because with Putin also said that we produce 9 million tons and 7 million tons are exported. Now, uh, India and China have been buying 4 million barrels a day roughly. Uh, we're buying what 1.7, they've been buying 2.3, roughly speaking. Now, if the Russian oil, a substantial part of it goes out of the market, the belief is that at the moment, nobody can raise oil production to the level where they can make good this shortfall in availability of oil globally, which means that prices may actually shoot up more. Now, if they shoot up more, then he has a problem. Putin has friend Trump has a problem because the
Does he does he do
price at
that
the
deal with does he
price at
do
the
that
pump
deal
will price at the
does
pump
he
will
do
go
that
up
deal with
unless he can
Venezuela?
push unless he can push Saudi Arabia and others to produce more oil. Uh,
Saudi Arabia has said that we will increase it by 137,000 barrels a day. But does he get in that Venezuela nonsense that he's trying to do to balance this out, sir?
well, point is that he has first to destabilize the regime, change the regime, get that Machado, a woman who's openly lobbying for American intervention and saying that we're going to denationalize oil and huge investments for U.S. companies and this and that. She's made it known whose tool she is, and then she wants Americans to grab Venezuelan oil and its reserves. But that won't happen overnight. That'll take some time.
Yeah.
So I'm not an expert on oil politics, but it is clear that his targeting of Russian oil, eh, frankly, had much less to do with ending the Ukraine war, but more in terms of his own ambitions and America's ambitions to be the main uh, driver of the oil market.
Because what you the way you kind of explained it, there's basically what when I look at it, he's trying to create a balance, remove Russia, bring in his own this thing, drill baby drill, get his people to produce more, so that he tells India, hey, you don't need to buy from Russia, you buy it from me. Tells China, buy it from wherever you want. They're it's a bit weird, and it seems like a typical Trump plan where he'll say everything is fixed, but it's not. And that's what we see in Gaza. Uh,
But again, I'm not aware of how the industry, our people, our PSUs and our private companies decide on purchase of oil and at what price. Now, there are two things. One, that as I understand, that at the moment, America is not in a position to fill the gap created by the elimination of availability of Russian oil in the market. They could do it, but not immediately. They have to ramp up production, and that'll take time. And this is what we've been telling them. That supposing we don't buy Russian oil, supposing we don't buy 2 million barrels a day or whatever it is, or 1.7, can you supply us? They can't. So that is one aspect that they cannot substitute for Russian oil. Um, the the other the other aspect is that uh, the the Russian the Russian oil will find its way into the market by hook or by crook, whether it is high seas operations and through various intermediaries, the oil gets sold, and some oil will still flow into the uh, Indian market. Uh, but the point is that even if you were to buy American oil or whatever, at what price? I understand. Again, I'm not an expert. This is what I hear from people I talk to, that because of the transportation costs, the uh, that American oil is not economical to buy, because the 10 to 12% dollar overhead costs because of transportation. So what companies are doing, our companies have been doing in the past, they buy American oil, but they sell it on the high seas. They don't bring it to India because it's not profitable. Uh, so so I don't know how his larger purpose of telling us that you wean away yourself from Russian oil and buy American oil is actually practicable in real terms on the ground, both in terms of availability and price. So these are questions that need to be delved into. But again, as I said, oil politics is very dirty and very complicated.
it's
so, so I don't know
India's
where. Hmm.
India's kind of signaled a drop, but not really said much. We've got long-term deals with Russia, so you're going to buy those oils. We own the Sakhalin oil fields and all that. We've got ownership there. So there is that. China has also signaled we won't buy Russian oil from the sea.
Hmm. Yes.
Uh, but the pipeline continues. So it's the same thing. India has cut off one part, China has cut off one part, but still stuff is happening.
This I don't
What
know. You've seen Reliance's long
I
post on.
believe Reliance, the only thing I can put together is because Reliance has a deal with for US LPG or LNG, one of the two. So, which was done during Biden's last month in November 2024. So Ambani had
Yeah.
gone there and signed that deal, 10, $12 billion or something like that. That was though I figure that Ambani needs to pivot a little bit so that he can get that, LPG deal going as well. But we do still see Russian oil coming into India like nobody's business. I mean, the
Yeah,
oil
but
tracking.
so there's a couple of other things. One is that there are some people whom I talk to. I'm not talking about people in India, but people who follow uh, what the situation is in Europe, and they are saying that, look, he's given himself 1 month uh, to strike some sort of a deal, because all this will become operational on November 21. Uh, and therefore, there is time. And with Trump, you never know, because he keeps changing his mind. uh, every few hours or every few days. So this is, they believe that this is a simply a pressure tactic, and that he could reverse this. He may or may not, but they think that if he really intended seriously to do this, he would have done it with immediate effect. Why is he? I mean, he's not altruistic. That people, countries targeting. He's saying, okay, I'll give you a month to adjust the thing. I am conscious of your difficulties. I mean, I don't think he thinks like that. So there is this view now. Where how well founded this view is, I don't know. The second is that look at what Germany has done, and Piyush Goyal has brought this out because their refinery uh, are used to refining Rosneft oil, and they
Yep.
can't the change the refining system to adapt it to refining other oils, and they've asked for an exemption from the
Yep.
United States. And Britain also has asked for an exemption. And Piyush Goyal brought it out, you fellows, without saying it, you're bloody hypocrites. You are pushing, pushing, pushing all this while that Russian oil should be sanctioned. And when it is sanctioned by the United States, you seek exemptions. Uh, so, so let's see how the whole thing goes. But it's not only India getting oil from Sakhalin, which we'll get for Isar oil, but also Japan. Japan is a partner in Sakhalin, and they get LNG from Russia. And I believe that I forget the figures, but one could check that is a sizable percentage of Japanese energy needs are supplied, 8% or more or less, whatever it is, by Russia.
Yep.
So
And they live. We can't
earlier
cut
on,
it off.
they can't cut it off.
Yeah.
So, uh, so let's see how this whole thing goes. But it is the most unfriendly act, so far as India is concerned. They made a Mickey of us by first only demanding that we uh, don't buy Russian oil, hmm? and then finally taking a decision which actually uh, would prevent us from accessing Russian oil because our private sector and our public sector companies will not want to be ousted from the global financial system and access to the US market and all the dollar transactions. Even some people are saying, in the worst case scenario, they can knock you out of SWIFT. That may or may not happen. But what I mean is that there is unpredictability as to what Trump could or could not do. And we therefore have been, our back is against the wall and we have to take some hard decisions. Are we able, will we be willing to say publicly what our private position is, although we've expressed it publicly in different ways, that we don't consider sanctions legal unless they're imposed by the United Nations. And the corollary of that would be that we are not going to accept any restrictions on our choice of buying oil wherever we want to, which means we'll continue to buy Russian oil and defy your sanctions. Are we able to say that? I'm doubtful.
Are we able to say that, or would we not say that and do what we need to do? I mean, I'm.
They would know, that OFAC would know.
Oh yeah, they would. There's no question about it.
They would
But so
know.
when,
Would then he squeeze us more? Now there are people who say, now again, it's very difficult. These are very extremely serious matters. There are
yes,
people who say that look, he's put 50% tariffs, the highest in the world, along with Brazil. What more can he do? So we already are suffering. So
yeah,
beyond a certain point, whether it's 50 or 75 or 100, what does it matter? But one can say that in a drawing room conversation. But when you are taking decisions, serious decisions at policy level, then
mm,
I think to study the repercussions of all this on the
yeah,
various aspects of
that
our
takes time.
relation with United States, and then see. Uh, my concern also is that this has happened, and this has been maybe in some way deliberately timed before
Mhm.
President Putin comes to India for the summit. So uh, Trump has already complicated the summit by taking this decision because in Russia, uh, there's a lot of sense of satisfaction and even admiration that India is committed to an independent foreign policy. That is, despite the warnings by Trump all these months not to buy Russian oil, India has continued to do so.
Yeah,
And
they
now,
don't.
with $65 billion of bilateral trade with Russia, there is a lot of sense of satisfaction. Uh, and Putin himself has said that he can't foresee that the Indian public will allow this to be bullied like this, and neither will Prime Minister Modi. Now, we have been put to the test. So before that visit, what will we do? Will we continue to buy oil, not buy oil? How do we handle it? Up to a point, the Russians would understand that uh, there are compelling circumstances in our case, because he's suffering himself from sanctions, that there are compelling circumstances which uh, put pressure on us to bend to some extent to America's global heft in terms of dollar transactions and control of the global financial markets and everything else, and therefore they can understand our predicament. But on the other hand, uh, I think there will be then question marks about strategic autonomy, and that push comes to shove. That we also bend to America's bullying.
Mm. That's it's a very interesting conundrum that we find ourselves into at this point of time, which is I guess is one of those times where history will change. So when you look at Trump's own credibility around the world, he's in Malaysia as we speak. Prime Minister Modi refused to go and meet him, which is I loved it that he didn't, because I don't want my prime minister to be behind going home.
Hmm.
That's not what we want to see. And I think Georgia Maloney's expressions said it enough for the rest of the world. Uh, this is going to be, and I'm sorry for using the word, a pattern of a clown show, which is going to go on and on and on.
Yeah.
We so do you think his right now, yeah, ASEAN summit and whatever APAC, this, that, people are fair enough inviting him. Do you think this will kind of reduce going forward? India has backed off from the Quad, not backed off, but we've probably put it in the cold freezer right now. Nobody's talking about it. America is not, Japan is not, Australia is not, we are not. Is it a purposeful, deliberate thing? It's okay, you want to play this game, let's stay away from you. We're not giving you that public legitimacy. But Modi ji is meeting everybody else. So, what's the message we are trying to send him?
I think in this particular case, and I have been saying that also publicly and on my posts on X, that it was a very wise decision not to go, because Prime Minister Modi would have met him under very unequal circumstances.
Mhm.
Still 50% tariffs on us. On top of that, no purchase of Russian oil, and effectively threatening secondary sanctions on us. And then you go and meet him, but meet him in how? On what basis? Uh, if he had made some gesture beforehand of removing these 25% tariffs, or signing the trade, or agreeing to the trade deal, and communicating to our side emphatically that this deal, as negotiated, is acceptable and can be signed by the two principals, etc., then there could have been some ground to meet him. Otherwise, it would have meant that we have swallowed these slaps. We have accepted these slaps on our face. And yeah, despite that, we are meeting him. Why should we meet him? So now, if he had gone there and not met Trump, that itself uh, would have created a serious diplomatic stir, and there would have been consequences of that. It was not possible to go there and not meet him. Now, it could have been balanced, assuming for a moment that we have swallowed these slaps and still met him, etc., etc. Some people are advocating, no, you see, if the two principals meet, they can sort it out and that sort of a thing. Now, if Xi Jinping and Putin were also there, he could balance it by meeting both of them. No, neither of them were there. So, in effect, his main meeting, apart from with Anwar Ibrahim, the Malaysian Prime Minister, would have been with Trump in very unequal circumstances. So, it is a problem, and it's a problem that will continue unless we can solve the issues which Trump has raised, which are intended openly to put us on the back foot and bully us. I don't see uh, the possibility of a bilateral face-to-face meeting. So, of course, they can continue to exchange messages, my good friend, that sort of a thing can go on.
When you look at the these situations, and you mentioned Germany and that waiver and everything that they're looking for, are they looking for us to come and ask them for a waiver?
But that puts us in a very awkward situation. That we have to beg for it, and then he'll extract concessions. Since he's
Isn't that
very, very transactional, so he's not going to give you a waiver without getting something in return. Then he'll say you buy this and you buy more of this and you buy more of that, and we'll give you a waiver. Yeah, he's totally unprincipled. Totally unprincipled. He has no complexes at all. He treats everybody with contempt,
yeah?
talks down at them. And then he has this very artificial style, insincere style of saying, "Oh, good man, he's a great man, he's this, he's that." It means nothing. I mean, if you have respect for persons and respect for countries, then you treat them differently.
Correct.
Where he doesn't do it. This is this is very, how should I say, difficult to find words to describe his personality and the way he does things. It simply doesn't behove his position as president of the United States to behave in the manner in which he is doing. Uh, and come back to Pakistan. I mean, he says on the plane or somewhere, I think, on en route to Malaysia, that or in Malaysia itself, in the press conference, that his great friend Field Marshal Munir is not there, and that kind of a thing. I mean, this causes me some concern, if you ask me, because this constant refrain of his admiration for Field Marshal Munir, knowing his background and knowing the sensitivity India has about America's ties with Pakistan beyond a certain point, what does this imply for us? Uh, and I will again say what I said earlier, that Mark Rubio's latest post saying that they find an opportunity to build strategic ties with Pakistan. What does strategic ties mean? Or what does reinforcement of ties with Pakistan mean? Mean, mean more money? Means more ignoring their terrorist affiliations, giving them a greater importance in regional politics. Uh, in a way, given the policy that America is pursuing in Bangladesh, indirect approval of stronger Bangladesh-Pakistan ties, uh, and of course, opening the doors to more financial aid from the Gulf countries to Pakistan. The one interesting thing, and I'm going to post this on X, I forgot to do it today, is the visit of the Polish foreign minister to Pakistan, Sikorski, who's a total unabashed warmonger on Ukraine. Total. Why has he gone to Pakistan? And I see him as going to Pakistan since he's totally in the lap of the Americans. There is this some kind of a background messaging going on uh, from US to Poland that you also back us up and improve bilateral ties with Pakistan, give them more visibility, give them more respectability, give them greater say in the region in some way or the other. Otherwise, why should we go? What for?
You know, it's It's still Pakistan, sir. I mean, somebody in his administration would be telling him, sir, this is Pakistan. It's still Pakistan. I mean, credibility, long term, these are missing.
What do you think Trump thinks that way? I mean, he thinks rationally that way. If he was thinking rationally, he wouldn't do what he's doing. What you are saying, I agree with you that if it was a rational decision. Now, mind you, it's not as if India can apply a veto on U.S. relations with Pakistan. And if they want to maintain a certain degree of relationship with Pakistan, because Pakistan has its own geopolitical importance, etc., etc., has served U.S. interests for a long time. U.S. knows what Pakistan is, but it's a very huge Muslim country with nuclear weapons. One can understand that. But why this admiration and constant eulogizing of Field Marshal Munir? What is
Gets
what
him the
is
money, gets him the money, crypto deals, gets him the money. So,
Yeah, but that is not a sufficient
Saudi
explanation. I
Arabia,
mean,
very,
if it is a sufficient explanation, then all the other things which you're saying, which are very reasonable about Pakistan's future, doesn't matter.
doesn't.
And actually, I would ask the question as I would I would rephrase what you are saying that if Pakistan has no future, then why is he sort of putting in money on crypto deals and this and that? Clearly, he feels that he can make millions or billions out of it, or the people around him.
It's also an amazing manpower supplier. I heard Saudi Arabia is getting two fighter squadron pilots. That's about eight, 20, 25, 30 of them. They're getting one lieutenant general rank officer, two major generals, three brigadiers, some air defense trained people, and this and that. And they've been told to bring their American equipment, leave their Chinese equipment behind. They will be paid 6,000 reals, which is about 2,000, about $200 more than what the United Nation pays. They're going to be paid about 25% above their salary. So yeah, I mean, a manpower supplier, sir, who fits in every place. I mean, doesn't say no. That's why he's my favorite. The such kind of megalomaniacs only like yes sir, three bags full, sir, man.
No, but look, the way it strengthens the role of the Pakistan military in Pakistan's polity,
Mm.
plus buying off the Pakistan military as a kind of a mercenary force for the protection of third countries. And then once these relationships start rolling, clearly a lot of money, apart from what you just described as the remuneration these guys get, they'll be ground prepared for Saudi pumping in more money to upgrade the Pakistani military, especially after operations Indu, to try and fill the gaps in their defense, air defense, and others. For that, they need money. And there's no sense in, I mean, logically, if there's a defense pact, Saudi would want the Pakistan military to be in strong position to discharge its responsibilities under the pact, and therefore help Pakistan to remove whatever may be the weaknesses in their defense posture and in their defense acquisitions. So now, whether to what extent Saudi Arabia does it, I don't know. My impression is that the Saudis haven't yet given us any proper explanation as to what impelled them to do so, and haven't said anything at the official level to mollify our concerns. Uh, Basically, they probably feel that India has to lump it.
Mm. I just got an update from RTC which says Brazilian President Lula calls meeting with Trump great, frank, and constructive. Agreed for teams to immediately search for tariffs and sanctions and solutions. Now, this is very interesting. He's in the BRICS. If you look at it, he's dealing with Russia separately, China separately, India separately, Brazil separately. Is this that same old notion that BRICS will kind of target America? BRICS is anti the dollar. I dumped the BRICS and this and that. just by splitting this game apart with these 4 5 people apart, which is basically a joint force till now, is he trying to create that gap so that he can maneuver between these people, sir?
Where has he met Lula?
He's met today.
In Kuala Lumpur.
ASEAN summit sidelines. Big, beautiful Brazil.
Okay. Because I thought I saw Lula in the lineup,
Yeah.
but I was not sure because I didn't know that Lula had gone there.
He's met, and
So,
this whole thing. By the way, Lula's body language was very bad, huh? So he was sitting cross-legged with the shoe facing Trump and all that stuff. And Trump, as usual, sitting like that in the
but
front.
Lula, has also been openly calling for de-dollarization. Uh, See, the fact is that the the biggest trade partner of Brazil is the United States. So there are a lot of economic, financial interests involved, and the Brazilian business honchos, uh, they are very much tied to American interests. Lula himself is very leftist oriented, and he reacts in a nationalist way when the United States tries to humiliate Brazil. And there are differences between them because Brazil has always been, well, not always, but in recent years against US trying to uh, insert itself into South American politics. So Brazil feels that it being the biggest country, it should have a say. It should play a role in shaping things and the politics of Latin America and North America, which traditionally America has done. So there are points of difference, but it's interesting that Lula has met him, and this what you mentioned has been issued from the Lula side or Trump side.
Yes, sir. Lula said.
Lula side. So that's interesting. That, but then point is, Trump can change his mind. After all, how many times he said about Putin,
That's the
the great conversation he had and everything else. Next day he changes his mind.
That's the
So
point, sir. How do you trust a guy like that? Now,
no,
here is my problem. Xi Jinping meeting Trump, I think, is one of the biggest mistakes Xi Jinping is going to make post this whole rare earths, charade that he played. I call it nothing better than that. You don't play your trump card right at the beginning of a game. I mean, we never even spoke farmers P. That's our
mm,
trump card. We didn't do that. This guy threw out his rare earth card right at the beginning, and then he's trying to backtrack, tell the rest of the world, no, 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 it's not against you. It's only against defense and US. And it seemed like absolute childishness as far as China was concerned. Uh, how do you see this geopolitics? Who will trust him? He's meeting China right now. Oh, big, beautiful China. Great deal. There's that. 3 days later, 100% tariffs on China.
yeah, it is very possible. I mean, look at this. He had a telephone call with Putin. It went extremely well. They decided to meet in Budapest, and the very next day he cancels the meeting. And not only cancels the meeting, he uh, actually positions himself totally on the side of Zelensky.
And he
Uh,
sanctions on top of it after
and he
that.
sanctioned oil, which the Brahmastra, in a sense, he played it. So far, even Biden didn't go this far, but he went and goes and sanctions the top two Russian oil companies. So he does that. So with China, you never know. They can agree on something, and then he can walk back saying that China has not lived up to its commitments and this and that. Therefore, I am imposing 150% tariffs or something like that on China. My own feeling is that China would have interest in the both sides backing off from this trade war.
Yeah.
Uh, because China has serious interest in the United States and in the global economy, and they don't want it to be disturbed because they are the ones who profited the most. And if the present economic structures continue to work, they are the ones who will profit the most. So they wouldn't want to upset those. But they have a more consistent policy, more long-term thinking, clear objectives, well thought out policies which they pursue assiduously. unlike uh, Trump and America. And they don't have this business about 4 years presidency, this and that. I mean, they're not pressured by domestic politics and elections, etc., etc. So they work according to 5 year plans and stuff like that. So I think in this meeting, Xi Jinping would not yield more than he feels could be yielded, keeping long-term Chinese basic interests in mind. Uh, with the Trump, he wants to have how should I say, he wants to succeed uh, in a way that he can boast about, uh, and that's what he wants. Now look at, he's so ridiculous, this man. He goes and he said that I will not attend the ASEAN summit unless I can sign the Thailand Cambodian peace agreement. Obviously, they agreed. And then I heard him say that, this agreement we saved millions of lives. For heaven's sake, between Cambodia and Thailand, he saved millions of lives. He's saving millions of lives all the time. In India, Pakistan, he saved millions of lives.
That, I mean, it really seems like BRICS is his target, sir. I mean, he's quite worried about that. Uh, with the whole financial game that he's trying to play, gold devaluation, they've just come up with a Bitcoin reserve bill, which is going to come across. It surely seems that he wants to keep the BRICS separated out so that he can handle them separately rather than a combined group. And that's something I don't know. When we saw the sanctions on India, the first reaction was from the BRICS countries who came out and said, except for South Africa. I mean, I think uh, it's uh, I mean, leaving South Africa aside, his role has been minuscule in this. But one thing was there that Brazil, Russia, India, China stood together and said, okay, we will handle this together. Lula made some statements, India made some statements, Putin made some statements, and China made some statements. So is he trying to kind of keep them apart so that he can deal with them separately rather than a cohesive group and create so much chaos around them so that they are just, looking for their own interests rather than a closed group geopolitical front?
Firstly, the cohesiveness of the BRICS group should not be exaggerated. Uh, BRICS has some fundamental weakness.
Yeah.
Uh, because of India-China ties. So unless
Mhm.
India-China ties really improve and become genuinely friendly, uh, which is not going to happen in the foreseeable future, uh, BRICS will not be able to achieve its whatever its stated objectives are. That's one part. The other is that there is a issue, genuine issue within BRICS, that for Russia, uh, BRICS is a way to counter the United States.
Mhm.
It's a genuinely confrontational approach that the United States wants to dominate, wants to be hegemonic.
Mhm.
Uh, we will create a parallel group which can discuss international issues and try and develop parallel ways of dealing with international issues, etc., etc. Uh, the China also now is in a confrontational mode with the United States. Uh, they are not in a direct conflict with the United States, but uh, over Taiwan there can be a conflict, and in any case, South China Sea and everything else, they are putting the United States on the back foot, and the manner in which their military forces are getting strengthened and the power they demonstrated in their parade and everything else shows that uh, China is actually sees itself as increasingly a peer of the United States. Now, India is not in that mode. Our biggest partner is United States, but without the kind of issues of confrontation and clash of strategic interests that China has with the United States. We don't have that. And then we look at our future in terms of closer ties with the United States and with the Western oriented world, whether EU or UAE or EFTA or Canada or what have you. Uh, we are very cheery of anything that is said about de-dollarization, because how do you talk about de-dollarization when your biggest partner is the United States? If you want to have an FTA with Europe and all that, you cannot say that we'll go in for de-dollarization, but we'll also have much more intensive economic ties with you and investment ties with Europe and this and that. So uh, that is one aspect. The other is that both Russia and China are permanent members of the Security Council, and
Yeah.
therefore they have a certain clout in terms of international issues where they can join together and counter the United States. We're not there, so we
Yep.
can't play that kind of a visible role in the UN
Yeah.
between the BRICS countries and add to resistance to the United States on how they handle international issues. That again is a bit of a weakness. And
Yeah.
then look, which are the countries with which we have the great powers with which we have the biggest trade deficit? China,
China.
and now with Russia because of oil.
Mhm.
Together, between them, we have about $160 billion of deficit, which is more than our defense budget, much more than our defense budget. Where do we have surpluses? With the United States of America. And with Europe, we don't have a surplus, it's more or less balanced trade, which means they buy a lot from us. Now, can the Russian economy buy a lot from us? Will the Chinese economy open us to buy a lot from us? No. So we are caught in a very difficult position where our economic interests are pulling us towards the West and the United States and Europe, and our larger geopolitical interests need balancing, and which means that BRICS is important to us. So we have to decide how much weight we give to both these considerations that we have in mind. We are in a difficult situation. We need to grow fast, genuinely become more and more independent in many ways, self-reliant. Maybe in 5, 10 years, uh, we can develop that capacity. But at the moment, we are vulnerable. But with regard to Trump targeting BRICS, uh, first of all, he's exaggerating that BRICS countries are dropping out and this, and only Argentina dropped out some time ago.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Kind of said, okay, okay, we'll stay away from now.
yeah, the the otherwise the BRICS countries are there. They obviously uh, they're not cohesive enough. Now, for example, in West Asia, hmm,
Mm.
uh, Egypt has played a he's a member of BRICS. Egypt has played a big role, clearly, but Russia, China, and India have played no role, and Iran even less. So we've not been able to uh, actually combine our thinking and views and our clout uh, to influence the process. So one should exaggerate the the capacity of BRICS at this stage, but BRICS is a work in progress, and the work in progress is important, and therefore we should continue to build on it and find common ground and work together and have a common agenda. But some structural difficulties need to be overcome and are not easy to overcome.
Yeah, it's not, sir. It's not. Absolutely. And, lastly, just a small little question. Do you foresee, some statements coming out with regards to the Quad and stuff like that going forward? Or is it, as I said, in the cold? It's just being put in the cold freezer now.
Couple of things. One is that I had always maintained and said more than once, even before this oil sanctions and everything was announced that that it would not be possible or desirable to hold a Quad summit. That we
Hmm.
have to sort out our relations with the United States first.
Yeah,
United States has to make
correct.
concessions to us, has
Yeah.
to make concessions to us before we have a Quad meeting.
Hmm.
And having a Quad meeting on our soil, Trump can hugely embarrass us, and that will flow into domestic politics
Yeah.
and Modi's own position. Why take the risk? In third countries, it is easier, but not here. Because he'll have a press conference and say all kinds of nonsense. And what do? You may again talk about, how role he played in the ceasefire and how he's willing to mediate, etc., with India and Pakistan, and how Field Marshal Munir is a good guy. Somebody will ask him, some journalist, well, you've been praising Field Marshal Munir, and he say, yeah, great guy, he's great guy. I love him. He can say anything.
That's the end of the visit.
So that is one.
Yeah.
The other is that Takeichi, the new Japanese prime minister, she's a strong lady, right wing. She's from the Abe fold. She has spoken in her parliament address about Quad and Indo-Pacific, this and that. She would have interest, but to what extent she has maneuverability? She may have preferences. She may want to do certain things, but how much maneuverability does she really have faced with a totally erratic and unpredictable Trump, who's already humiliated Japan and in part contributed to uh, the resignation of the previous Japanese prime minister. Uh,
That's
and so far as Australia is concerned, Australia and India can work together bilaterally as we are doing. I think that relationship is going well. But will sort of India, Japan, and Australia, with their commitment to Quad, can actually ensure that United States participation in Quad is real, substantial, and meets the objectives of Quad. The key player in this is United States, and once that leg of the four-legged Quad is shaky, weak, and I think uh, Quad will remain a bit unstable. So I think the future of Quad is under Trump not not well sure. Now, even for a moment, we accept that his thing with Xi Jinping doesn't go off. Now. Let's moment accept that. Can we rely on Trump then to actually make a commitment to Quad? Because 1 month later, 2 months later, 5 months later, he may just change again. He's introduced so much uncertainty and unpredictability in America's foreign policy that the trust level is gone. You can't rely on it. So to answer your question, I think we Quad has lost his, uh, his sense of well-being, if you like.
yeah, as of now at least. Correct.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like you know um, it should be. It's in the priority of anybody at the moment. At least it doesn't seem like so.
No, I don't think so. Even in India's case, it cannot now be really priority in that sense because our own relationship with the United States has got destabilized.
Yeah,
And therefore, if you talk a lot about Quad in the background of America basically kicking us around, I mean, we'll be embarrassing ourselves.
it's absolutely crazy and ridiculous. Is all I can say, sir. Anyway, sir, thank you so much. You've put in a lot of sense into this entire nonsense, if I may use that word, because that's what it is around the place. I've seen a lot of geopolitical experts and stuff like that just say, I'm just going to say that and no more because I don't know. they just don't want to say anything, and it becomes quite a funny thing to look at. But that is what it is. Thank you so much, sir. Always a pleasure talking to you and learning from you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
To the audience, my request is please like, subscribe, and of course, support this particular channel. You can do so by using the QR code, PayPal, Super Sticker, Super Chats, but most importantly, just by subscribing. Namaskar.
Namaskar.